find myself wondering what did happen to the last 10. I ran away with my life, fast forward, never turn back again. It's kind of funny that the more we pass time, the more we need to set them rewind. And 19 was the year I had to leave you, but now I'm seeing all the signs. Is this really happening? I can't believe it's true. I'm just as surprised as you. Is this really happening? I can't be too sure, but one day I'll be yours again. Life lessons come one in a dozen. The other 11 give something from nothing. I sit here looking for an answer. Maybe the biggest question was in the last chapter. You gave me the soul I have today. Without you I never could have moved away. But now I see what you teach. I do believe I always should have stayed. Yeah. Is this really happening? I can't believe it's true. I'm just as surprised as you. Is this really happening? I can't be too sure, but one day I'll be yours again. One day I'll be yours.
Well, everyone, I wasn't actually going to do this. It's been a long time since I've just went live by myself here to chat about what our dear government is doing. And today, well, this evening, I know it's late for some of you, and I'm not sure how many people will actually watch this because it's just one of those spontaneous lives. So if any of you crazy people are out there actually watching, well, more power to you, because I definitely have not gone live and done as many spontaneous lives as I have in the past. But this one, we're going to talk about the levels plans a little bit, but in a different way. So I don't have to rehash everything that you've seen on the other channels and everyone racing to release the most recent news. I'm not going to belabor or waste too much time with it. But what people often do is they pick out the high points. Maybe they throw the site into chat GPT and say, hey, what's the high points? And what did you come up with? What should I do to do a quick little social media post so I sound like I'm really smart? Well, that's not what I do, you guys. And what I like to do is to go right to the source and then break down sometimes the hidden meaning that's in it. But I also, in this video, well, this live stream, I want to share a little bit from a presentation that I did on Express Entry this past week. So just a week ago, I was in Toronto speaking at the Canadian Immigration Lawyer Association's national conference. And on the panel with me was just me and a great government officer who is the head over policy for Express Entry. So the ones who kind of make the decisions on the rounds of invitations and things like that. He was very gracious to come join me and present together. And so I talked about some of the challenges and he shared insight, which I'm actually going to share with you guys tonight. Those of you who are brave enough to tune in at this late hour, but I'm going to share some insight that he shared that is not readily apparent in the levels plans that have been released. And I'll take your questions. We'll get your take on what you think is happening. But one thing I can tell you when I look at this information that was released, which is kind of embedded in the annual report, I'm just going to see if I can shift this over so I can show you. Okay, so this annex, this is like a government who is completely disorganized. So this isn't how you do it. You tack on the levels plan as an afterthought. I think they were scrambling to get the budget out. They didn't have a really good plan. So they had someone throw this together, throw in a few charts for us, but very little detail. So if you remember from the other annual levels plans that we have, like if we go here and we just type in here, levels plans for 2025, you'll see here that we have this wonderful supplementary information here. So you guys, this is what's missing from this report. This is the more detailed breakdown so we can see exactly what's happening. Now, we do have overall numbers for temporary residents to some extent, but the breakdown of permanent residents and really how this is going to play out is kind of watered down in here. But we'll talk about it, and then I know there'll be more to speak of because there are some big things people are chatting about, like that 33,000 essentially TR to PR pathway that they have announced, which I'll get to in a little bit. But these are some of the things, you guys, that are circulating around that are more smoke and mirrors than actual information for you and I. So the law requires that they release the annual levels plans for immigration before November the 1st of each year. I think because it fell on a Saturday this year, they took the liberty to say, oh, well, then because it fell on a Saturday, we can release it then on another day, which they chose the day they released the budget. But it is what it is, right? We can't control what the government's doing. All we do is we try to share insight. So I want to give a couple shout outs as we start here because you guys are live, which is crazy. And so that you're just tuning in. So we'll definitely get to some other information here. So thanks so much for sharing your knowledge. Yes, and I really intended to actually put this as a as a scheduled live, and we talked about it as a firm, but guys, I was slammed today. I had so many consultations and they were really challenging ones. And we had a presentation that we did to one of our corporate clients because they're having lots of troubles. And ultimately I had to get away. So I committed to play a little pickleball with my doubles partner. And so we did that. And, a couple of shout outs. Igor here. He's actually, Igor right now is not joining me because he's working on a presentation that I'm going to be doing on Thursday for LPEN, which is the Legal Professional Education Network, on the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program. So a couple other shout outs. Spider-Man, good to see you. And let's see who else we have here. Paula says, I did not watch the live, but I saw the document and the 33,000 work permits inside Canada target. And yes, and that's really what we're talking about, right? Like, what does that mean? So I know people have got questions. Please post them and I'll work through it. And yes, I know, understand I didn't end up doing it on Halloween. Things have been really crazy. So we always do a Halloween one. Let's see, it's kind of funny here. I had everything queued up like this. Oh, I got to turn my sound up. So I had all the sound effects all ready to go. The bell, the screams. I had everything queued up, but you guys, it's crazy right now. A lot of the extra time that I had, a lot of the fun I had doing live videos and things like that, I just have not had an opportunity to put it together. So things were crazy. And like I said, it is what it is. So thanks for your patience. And I want to thank everybody for all their support over the years. We've been doing this. We've got over 1,000 videos that we've done here on the Canadian Immigration Institute's YouTube channel. So, all of the success of this is because of you guys and your good questions. So, Yuander is here in my hometown of Lethbridge. Oh, better give some applause there for Yuander. So cool. Thank you. And God First 535, hello to you. And Rajoy, thanks to you as well. And Hilamani over on Facebook. Thanks for joining, my friend. Hilamani's he's a phenomenal, he's a way better pickleball player than I am. He is so good, so good. Okay, all right, let's get to it. And thanks for all your positive comments. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to shift over and I want to show you exactly the source. So lots of people don't take the time to actually look at it. They just listen to whatever secondhand information that comes out, whatever spin they put on it. But it's important to understand all of this preamble information that they put in here sometimes will give hints on where they're going with things. And so if we look here, you can see they give a little discussion about how, Canada is such a wonderful country and we welcome people from all around the world and they work hard and come here for a better life for their families and to study at world-class universities and, wanting to drive innovation in Canada. And the fabric of our nation is woven with this tradition. Okay, so that's the ideal. That's how in 2015, before the Liberals came into power, I think we could honestly say all of those things were built in and baked into our immigration policy. And the vast majority of Canadians were very supportive of immigration. And you can see here, as we've welcomed the world, we had the promise if they came here, they'd have an opportunity, right? And that our country is generous, fair, and diverse. Okay, great. But then they said our immigration system was built to standardize and evaluate newcomers so that admission was based on person's merits. So what are you saying? Like admission right now isn't based on merits, but whatever. I understand they're trying to frame this in a way that can justify the crazy action that they're now taking. Okay. So they talk about, oh, it's complex and it's grown and our efficiency has waned. And in recent years, the system became even harder to manage and less functional and, all of these things, right? And so what they have to realize is that they're the only political party that's been in power. It's literally been them that have created this mess. So yes, the pace of arrivals began to exceed capacity to absorb and support. Well, who the heck did it? Well, it was the government. And it's been the Liberal government who set this in place, okay? And they talked about, well, the total percentage of temporary residents in Canada was only 3.3% of Canadians' overall population in 2018, right? Remember, they came into power about 2017, or 2015, I should say. And then by 2024, that number had more than doubled to 7.5%, an unprecedented rate of growth. Well, in 2017, 2018, I think that's when I first was elected as the secretary of the CBA's National Immigration Section. And so I got on the table and I started working my way through the executive officer roles within the national section of the CBA. And even at that time, we were telling them there are too many international students coming in. And they're like, whoa, what's the big deal? They don't all want to stay. Yes, they do want to stay. Because what happened in 2015, you guys? Does anybody know what happened in 2015 that changed the whole landscape of immigration in our country? Those of you who are paying attention, I want to see. So what happened in 2015 that radically changed everything within our immigration landscape in the country? I'm waiting for your comments here. This person here says, I've been watching from Winnipeg, Manitoba. You're awesome. Insights, very informative. Thank you. Waiting to understand these numbers. Okay. So I'm waiting for your comments. You guys have got to post comments. What happened in Canada in 2015 that radically changed the whole landscape? Okay. Looks like I have to pull from Igor. He's posting. I'm not going to post him though. Come on, you guys. You can answer this. Seriously, you guys can't answer what it is? Oh, okay. I can't wait any longer. Of course, Express Entry was launched. And initially, an LMIA was 600 points. Once you got an LMIA supported job offer, there we go. We got a few that are jumping in there. That's a little questionable. Yes, you have an unfair advantage, Igor. But the reality is that drastically changed the whole landscape. Why? Because human capital started to really drive the ship. And within the express entry process, good shout out to Gita here, who's on X. Thanks for connecting in. Abdullah, hello, my friend. Express entry on LinkedIn. We're getting some good reach here. But when express entry was launched, people in Canada, if you had an LMIA, you were guaranteed a nomination. So the first few years, they were realizing, wait a minute, our executives aren't getting any points, and all of our food service supervisors are taking all the spots because they have LMIAs. Well, gradually that started to shift. So they dropped the 600 points for an LMIA supported job offer to 50 for skilled tier 3 or higher positions. At the time, it was skill level 0A and B, tier 0A and B levels before the tiers. And they gave 200 points to the 00 knocks. Okay, so that was kind of everything leading up until recent times. And the problem, as we see over time, as it becomes more and more competitive, people who weren't scoring high enough under the Federal Skilled Worker Program to immigrate directly from India or wherever you're coming from, they then realized that there was something they might need to do to come and get more points. So anybody have any clue what happened? What started to increase substantially in Canada as people realized they weren't scoring high enough to get an ITA when they're outside of Canada? What did they do? There's always a little bit of a delay with my question and people's answers. But what did people do, or what process did they start following to try to get an invitation to apply in Canada? Remember, points were now being awarded for experience in Canada. Okay, let's see. I'm still waiting for someone to tell me what happened. What did people start doing in order to increase their chances of getting an invitation to apply if they're outside of the country? Thank you. Thank you, you guys. Right. Yes, my Alvin and God first. Yes. Study in Canada and then work, because you get the extra points and you can then level up. So that's when that whole process, you bet, education, that's when it all started. And back in those days, and I'm going to go back here now. So the unprecedented rate of growth, I still remember being in one of the meetings with the head PR, over the economic immigration, the head officials, and they couldn't figure out why there were so many international students coming to study in Canada. And they thought, oh, it's because of our, what do we have here? I think we had it up here. They described it. Just give me a second here. Our world-class, they want to come and study at our world-class universities. No doubt Canadian education is really good. And it was something that it is to some extent still world-class, really good education when you come to Canada. But they couldn't understand why there were so many students coming. And the reality is, you guys, the reason there were so many students was because people were coming purely to study, to then get a work permit, to get the extra points. So if you studied in a 2-year program, you get 15 extra points. If you did a bachelor's degree, you get 30, or a master's, you get extra 30. And then you get your postgrad work permit, work for 1 year. If you're single, 40 points. If you're married, 35 points, and then an extra 10 each year. And so that's what transformed the whole world. And you need to understand, everybody, if you haven't yet had an opportunity to review this kind of stuff, is that this is what's driving the ship. And it was big business, big money. And so as the educational institutions relied more and more on international students and all of your high tuition, it became quite a racket, right? And you'll know that lots of overseas agents and consultants and lawyers and study permits were a big business. Our firm really didn't do many of them. We focused on the express entry side of the equation, but many people came in to study. So you can see here, as we go through this, they start to realize that complexity, and it became harder to manage and less functional. Well, of course, because the pressure of all these international students, which I warned them, I warned the decision makers, you've got to bring this in check. This was back like before 2018, 2019. I was the national chair. I think it was 21. I can't even remember. Let's see. Yeah. It was like during the pandemic, 2020 to 2021, I was the national chair. And so we talked and we warned them, but nope, because there's too big of a lobbying group. There was too many people that were driving the ship. And so, of course, it began to exceed Canada's capacity to absorb and support the newcomers. So then they complained. In 2018, it was 3.3%. By 2024, it was 7.5%. Unprecedented growth. That's for sure. Pressure on housing, healthcare, schools. You guys will remember when Mendocino and Fraser, the conservatives were just lambasting them because there was no housing. And they're like, it's racist to blame the international students and people on the fact we don't have housing. Well, now here they're acknowledging it. So, politics, I hate it. So this is the irony. Canada's new government recognizes that this system is no longer sustainable. Seriously, this drives me crazy. You are the same freaking government. You are the same liberal government. I don't care if you swap out vanilla. It's kind of like that iPhone commercial, right? Where they've got the vanilla ice cream cones and it's like Vanilla Pro and it's kind of the same exact look. Okay, this is the same government, all right? It's got different people smiling at us, but it's the same liberal government. So it's so ironic that they describe it in this way. So that somehow they're a total new government with a new outlook on life. Well, seriously. So Canada's new government, the existing one, acknowledges that they screwed it up in the past. So we're determined now to make it so for everyone who lives and comes to this country. So they're determined to make this whole system work. Okay? So they're going to take back control over the system. Oh my goodness, you guys have had control the whole time and put Canada on a trajectory to bring immigration back to sustainable levels, to basically clean up the mess they caused. You guys, I want to emphasize something. You guys are not to blame. You're not. You did exactly what the laws and policies and programs suggested you could do. You did exactly everything right. You didn't do anything wrong. This is entirely on our government, okay? So now they're basically saying, hey, Minister Fraser, I wish I had an image of Minister Fraser I could bring on here, but I don't have one. You guys are great. We want all of you, blah, blah, blah. And then Minister Miller, Mark Miller, became the sacrificial lamb. He basically knew going in that he was going to be the bearer of bad news. He was going to do all the dirty work. So then this new government, which is the same government, could then try to distance themselves of what was done from the past. Okay? All right. So continuing forward. And hey, if you guys don't want to listen, that's totally fine, because we're going to go through this. Okay? And those of you who are ready to go to bed or whatever, that's fine. I get it. But I want to explain what is really happening in the background here, because you have to look through what they're saying here to understand where they're actually going. Because what have they released for us, you guys? Not a whole heck of a lot. So let's see what we can find, these little hidden gems. Okay, so they say at the same time, Canada will continue to its long tradition of welcoming those fleeing violence, persecution, and displacement. This is not the case. They are significantly axing refugee, humanitarian, and compassionates. Those are the things that are really taking it on the chin. And I don't know, you guys, what's going to happen with these 50-year processing for H&C. It is not getting better from these level plans. And we'll look at that in just a little bit. Okay, so you can see here, look at us. The results of our focus are already becoming apparent. So in other words, our dirty work is already taking effect. Our asylum claims are down by 1/3. Well, that's great, because everybody's already filed them that is going to file them. A new temporary foreign worker arrivals are down by 50% this year. Of course they are, because of all the measures that they've taken. Spousal open work permits, the removal of dependent children's work permits, the limitation on the LMIAs themselves, with the creation of that super high wage threshold and cutoff, and basically labeling every community pretty much in the country to be over 6% unemployment. So you just can't get them. So new international student arrivals, this is my favorite, you guys, have also declined by approximately 60% compared to 2024. This is a start, but we recognize there's more work to do. Why are international student arrivals down? It has very little to do with what our dear government has done. Very little. And I shouldn't say what they've done. They're not actively, it's not the reduction of PALs across the country that's causing the reduction. It's because that pathway of coming, studying, working, and getting PR is just not there. And the reality is, there's probably between 10 to maybe 14, 15% of all foreign workers that will have an opportunity to transition to permanent residence. So that heralded guaranteed pathway that used to exist for these individuals, where that would incentivize them to come and spend this horrible amounts of money for foreign tuition for educational institutions, people are just saying no, like there's no advantage to that. I'll go somewhere where it's cheaper, or somewhere where I might have a pathway to permanent residence. So this is what's operating here, okay? Now, here's what we know is going to happen. The very limited information. So we know that the 2026 to 2028 immigration levels plans, okay, now remember, it's not as pretty as this, but it should be coming. And this is very interesting, because we can see 380 is what they had projected last year for 2026, when they did the drastic reduction from 505 or 10,000 down to 395. So they said they were going to do 380 this year. So what do they say? They say this year they're going to stabilize it at 380 for 3 years. So according to what they do before, they're going to keep this at 380, keep this at 380, and 2028, they're also intending to keep it at 380 for the next 3 years. So while increasing, now here's the key. So those of you who are express entry bound or hoping to have pathways, they are increasing the share of economic migrants from 59% to 64%. So if we go down here and we look at the totals, okay, let's go to the here, economic immigration. You can see that it is going to rise. So the overall projections, 380, 380, 380, and then the economic immigration, 239, 800 for next year. Then it's going to go up to 244 and 244. So modest increases. But if you go back to the supplementary information from last year, you can see that their plans before they make the change here, you can see the federal economic priorities. And if we go right down here, we can see the overall numbers and we can see how they compare. So last year, 232, sorry, for this year, they'd projected 229 this year, but in reality, they're actually going to take it to 239. So, and 244 for 2027, when before they were going to do 225, they were actually going to reduce it. So you can see in a very, very limited way, you guys, the numbers are just ever so small, ever so slight increases in the total economic side of the equation. Okay, so great. That's positive. We're at least there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, but it doesn't change the fact that if we go here, let's look at the rounds of invitations and let's pull this up here. It doesn't change the fact when we go through here and we go to the score distribution, okay, and let's see, October the 29th, we had that once again. Oh my goodness, this just drives me crazy. 6,000, okay, but I don't need to say that, you guys all know. But if we look at the score distribution, okay, how many are above 500? We have like over 26,000 people that are in the high range here. 26,000 people. It's massive amounts, okay? And so when it comes to the levels plans, they are going to increase, which should mean that more people will have opportunities, and theoretically, the scores should start to go down slightly, ever so slightly, okay? But at the end of the day, and I'll get to this in a second, you guys are all waiting for this 33,000 work permit holders to permanent residents in 2026, 2027, next year. I'll give you all my insight on this, everything that I know, where I think this is going, okay, in just a bit. But I want to go through just this little overview here of them pumping up themselves. Look, this is so good, so good. Okay, and then I can't wait to follow all of your comments. I'm going to get back to you in a second, guys. We'll get through this quick here. Okay, I'll speed it up. So they're also going to reduce the new temporary resident admissions from 673 in 2025 to 385. Like, what is that? Like a 40 or so percent reduction? I can't remember what it is. But the reality is this is already happening, okay? 50% of these are going to be international students. And then what we don't know exactly is maybe the extra 150,000, where's it going to come from? Well, we know the reduction on the work permit side is the LMIAs and the inability for people to get LMIAs. So for sure, that's going to be a portion. But then what have they done to reduce? There's not going to be as many post-grad work permits because there's fewer students. There's not going to be as the same opportunities for spousal open work permits that there were before. They've already started to shrink that. No dependent open work permits. So all of those things are going to combine to cause this to go down. And we expect that, right? And then they're going to take it down to 370 in 2027 and 2028. Okay. So, it's, who cares about the cost, whatever. Okay. So, and then they try to throw out a little bit of a, I guess, an olive branch here. The government recognizes the role of the temporary foreign workers. So they're not going to do what the conservatives said and just scrap it, which is stupid. Like, seriously, conservatives scrapping the temporary foreign worker program, like, clean it up, enforce more, absolutely. But scrap it? No. In some sectors of the economy, in some parts of the country. So they're basically saying we recognize that there's a role for it, but we could see even more restrictions to the temporary foreign worker program than there are right now. Not just the high wage, low wage, but just focusing on, like they said, some sectors. That would be scary, but it is what it is. So 2026 to 2028 immigration levels plans will consider industries and sectors impacted by tariffs, okay, from the US and the unique needs of rural and remote communities. Okay, well, the thing that irritates me the most with the whole rural discussion is if we go back here and we look at our rounds of invitations, we'll go back one spot here, and we go to the actual types of rounds of invitations. This is what irritates me. And we look at the category based, And then we go down here and we select our lovely agriculture, which they say rural and ag is so important. Oh my goodness, look at this. Seriously, butchers? Okay, I'll get into this a little bit later. But so that's my issue. Those are some of my concerns, okay? So this here, we're not going to spend a lot of time about the whole protected person stuff. We're just going to skip through that, but they are not getting a good rap, okay? So just to say, when they roll out these changes, refugees, agencies, those things are really going to take it on the chin, okay? All right. Now, this one, which everybody is so anxious. Okay, I want to hear your comments as I go through this, okay? And then I'm going to circle back. I want to hear what you guys think they're going to do with this 33,000 work permit holders to permanent residents in the next 2 years. Okay, I wish I could go back to the annual levels plans. Maybe we can. Let's see, annual levels plans. Let's go 2023. Let's see if we can pull it up. Okay, we can. Good. Okay, I want to show you something here. So one thing you guys will see right here, federal high skill, federal economic public policies. Okay, if we click on number 2 here, it'll take us down to the world of the temporary resident to permanent resident pathway. Oh, that was so fun. I love those times. It was insane. Okay, I was the national chair during that time when it was launched. And I knew more about the temporary resident to permanent resident pathway than I think anyone else in the country other than the government. And I went out of my way to get as many people ready for this crazy race to file that was the temporary resident to permanent resident pathway. And it literally opened up the door for people who were essential workers, for people that were even international students, to be able to secure permanent residence through this one-time measure. And in fact, I created, and if they do this again, I will definitely create another course. I'm going to just pull it up here and I'll show you what I mean by this. Those of you who are new to the game, boy, I had a lot of fun back in those years. So if I go back here, I'll just share this with you. So you know that right now we've got the express entry and the visitor visa course. Citizenship has been sitting here forever. Igor. Okay. Anyways, so if we log in here, I want to show you, I think I still have it if I go into all of the past courses that I've done in the past. There it is right here. This one was so much fun. Oh my goodness. I think I had in the very short period of time about between 500 to 600 people that went through it. And I created a course over a weekend to help people prepare so they could win the race to file. And basically they opened it up on one day. And the reality is on that one day, the whole international student category filled. I think there was 40,000, maybe, I can't remember. And almost every single one of my students that were eligible that went through that course knew what to expect, knew where the portal was, knew how to fill it out, how to answer the questions, how to be ready. And it was just so joyful to be a part of it and see them get through and win. I've got some tips and strategies I'm going to give you before we're done this for how you can start to prepare right now for this new whatever it is. TR to PR pathway, I'm not sure. So I'm waiting to see what you guys think this is, okay? So where do you think, who are going to get these spots for this 33,000 work permit holders? Is it going to be a TR to PR pathway like the one I just showed you? Or is it going to be, and if we go back to the rounds of invitations here, come on, I know you can load. If we go back to the previous rounds of invitations right here, this is kind of fun. And let's go to invitations issued. That's probably the best way to sort this. So if we go invitations issued and we go high, 27,332. February the 13th, 2021. I still remember it like it was yesterday. I know I did multiple videos on this. The lowest rank was 75. What does that mean? It means every single person that was in the pool under the Canadian Experience class was granted an invitation to apply at that stage. Now, understand right now, this is not going to be how it plays out. The minister is not going to extend an invitation to apply to every person that's in the pool. That much we do know. But if we go back and we look at the actual, let's go back to this right here and then open up I'm just trying to find the score distribution right here. If we look at this, you can see there's just simply, if we were to invite, The vast majority of these people in the pool are CECs. So the vast majority are. So there's a total of 248,000 people in the pool, and the vast majority of these are CECs. So they're not going to do what they did before and just invite everyone. There isn't room. But they will determine winners and losers. But the only way that you can play the game, you guys, is to have an application in the pool. So if you have not yet made the decision whether or not it's time to put an application in the pool or whether it's worth it, it is. Within the firm, we help people all the time to get this right the first time. And we are very careful with our fee structure and everything so that we're providing you advice and helping you to actually get your profile submitted right, knowing that you may never get an ITA in the future. But after the crazy round of invitations, this insane one right here, if we go right here, this 27,332, when people only had a 75 CRS score, I would have considered it negligent for a lawyer to get paid to help someone submit a profile when their score was 75. But when this happened, and I'll let you in on a little secret. So at the time, Minister Mendicino, the immigration minister, he was not meeting his levels plans targets because the borders were closed because of the pandemic. And so he asked us in one of our meetings to provide him with a list of recommendations. And guess what number 2 on the list was? Number 2 was reduce the CRS score and invite more people. They're in the pool already. And you'll be able to get your levels plans met by doing that. But we did not have any clue that they were going to do this. Literally a CRS score of 75. So what that means is every single one of you, if you have the ability, make sure you have an active profile. If you do not have an active one, write your language test now. That was one of the barriers that prevented many, many people from being able to get into this program right here, because the actual process of the TR to PR pathway required people to have language tests. And if they did not have their language tests right here, they were not getting their application approved. And the reality is many people did not go through because when the program was announced, everybody rushed who didn't have language tests to try to get them scheduled. And the choke point that really restricted the total number of people that were really trying to get in and applying was the fact they didn't have language tests. So do that. Get your educational credentials, do your language test, get everything ready because we don't know exactly what's going to happen here. Now, you can see there's other hints here at what the program will look like, and you have to read the fine print. These workers, and here's some of the qualifications. Does this sound like you? Does it sound like you? These workers have established strong roots in their communities. What does that mean? Okay. It probably means, how do you establish strong roots? You only establish strong roots by being in the community over time, not just 1 year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years. Okay. You are paying taxes. It's always about taxes. We are a socialist country. Okay. We have all of our public services that are supported and paid for by taxes that people pay. I pay really high taxes so that there are good schools, so that the roads are paved, so that there is healthcare, right? I pay very high taxes, way more than if I was in the US. But I do that willingly because I know collectively we can provide something better for everyone. That's what socialism is all about. Now, would I ultimately vote for that kind of a world? If I had a choice and Canada says we're going to follow the American model, I don't know what I'd do. And would I rather have my taxes in my pocket and be able to choose where it goes versus sometimes where the government blows it and spends it that I think is wasteful? Yeah, I'd love to have some choice or input in that. But the reality is my taxes I know that I pay make this country a better place to live, not just for my family, but for my neighbors that I love and care about, right? For all of you that I care about. So taxes are a part of the world. And the people that are going to be linked to this 33,000 are people that pay taxes. Okay. So if you are a low wage person who is in the bracket where you don't have to really pay taxes and you get them all back, I don't think you're going to be in this range of the people that are going to be selected for this 33,000. Does it mean that they are more executive level? Well, possibly, you guys. It could be professionals, executives who pay a lot of taxes, who right now may not have pathways to permanent residence because there are no spots and their age really prohibits them from being able to get an ITA because they lose all those 100+ points because maybe they're already 45, okay? But they're paying a boatload of taxes, right? Another thing to emphasize are helping to build the strong economy Canada needs. What does that mean? What does build mean? Building a strong economy, is that just focused on executives? Or do we need workers in the trades to help build the strong economy Canada needs? We need houses, we need construction, we need building. Are they included? I don't know. So the fiscal cost of this measure is 19.4 million over 4 years. That's like peanuts, you guys. That's nothing. So if they're saying 19.4 million, that suggests to me that they're probably not going to do anything too crazy. The programs that they're going to leverage off of may be the existing ones we have right now, or who knows? Maybe they re-up the TR to PR pathway. They already have the basic mechanism in place. Maybe they do that. So those are the two options, okay? And so this is peanuts compared to what they've spent on other things. So this tells me they're not going to spend a whole bunch of money creating new fancy things. They're going to leverage off of what they probably have already with such a small amount invested. Okay? All right. And understand when it comes to the cost for immigration, it says here, and other departments to process the additional applications, which are partially offset by higher fee revenues. So they could very well charge more processing fees to help offset the costs of running the program, which maybe can also, I guess, to some extent, justify why it's only a 19.4 million over 4 years, remember. Like that's like 5 million a year. That's like nothing, okay? All right, so you can see here, the targets keep permanent resident arrivals at less than 1% of the population. Like what's our population, 40 million or something like that, okay? And will reduce the total number of temporary residents to less than 5%. That's been their goal, that's nothing new. But the goal is to get it done by 2027. That's their goal, okay? Now, our plan will restore control. Oh, I love this. Control, clarity, consistency in the immigration system while maintaining compassion in our choices and driving competitiveness in our economy. This one I call BS, okay? Because at the end of the day, compassion, how many people feel that the government right now is showing you compassion? How many? I have to assume that very few of you are feeling compassion from our dear government. All right. And then additional details, which are basically these ones. They haven't given us the real breakdown. So they say additional details will be provided when the Minister of Immigration tables the 2025 annual report to Parliament on immigration. So who's our minister? Who is she? We don't even see her. We rarely see her around. There she is, a little cameo in the bottom, right? If we go up to the top here, we'll see that this process right here, message from the minister, she does not make public appearances. This is the most disappointing thing of all of this. Our previous immigration ministers would get up and actually talk to us. Maybe she learned from Mark Miller, who just got crazy with his tweeting and everything and his politics. Obviously, whatever he did must have been effective because we have another liberal government again. But Minister Diab, she does not appear or do diddly squat when it comes to reaching out to you or I to talk about what's happening with immigration. She, the Honorable Lena Metleg Diab, ECNS, KC, PC, MP, Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship, she basically has ducked undercover, staying in the background and waiting for the dust to settle as this really traumatic process that all of you are going through continues to work its way through fruition. So there you go. Okay, now let's just quickly touch on this. This is what they've already talked about. So you can see workers and students. Workers really are not reduced very much. See? So it's only 10,000 really over the years. They're not really reduced a whole ton periodically as we go through this. Students, they only want 155, then 150. They probably won't even hit these levels because who wants to come study here and pay that kind of money unless you just really are independently wealthy, right? And I think in the past, the numbers were driven up by people who weren't wealthy, who were coming here to try to sacrifice everything to have a chance at a better life. In other words, study, work, PR was the main goal. Even the studies that they took weren't necessarily focused on, weren't driving the decision making. Okay. Um, okay. And see, we don't know the breakdown of how these numbers are going to shake down. If we go back to the notices from before and we look at the temporary one here, you can see that for workers, they broke it down. International Mobility Program, Temporary Foreign Worker Program. So you can see the total workers that they had here was 367,750 for this year. And then 210 for 2026, 237 for 2027. How does that compare? 230, 220. So when you look at it realistically, it's actually a little bit of an increase for 2027 up to 237 from the 220 that they had originally projected. So workers are actually, overall numbers are not substantially different than what they had for last year. And then students, 155, 150. And if we go back to this one here and we go to, let's see if we've got students here, arrivals, workers, students, 305.9, 305.9, 305.9. That was their target. And this year, 150, 150. You can see they're basically slashed. So there you have it. And then PR is somewhat of a mystery. So we don't know exactly how this is going to structure. When we click on economic immigration here, it says under the Quebec Accord, Quebec has responsibility for the selection of economic immigrants destined to Quebec. So they're basically saying that this doesn't include Quebec-based immigrants, right? And then the total numbers, like we looked at before, 239, 244, 244, which is actually an increase overall. Family reunification is kind of stagnant. It's kind of the same. Like if we go back here to the levels plans and we look at family here, you can see if we go to the family, 94, 5, 88, 81, and the current plan is 84, 81, 81. So it's not substantially different, okay? But refugee protected persons, 56.2, 54.3, 54.3. We go here, we look at refugees, 58, 55, 54. So they're basically they're keeping it down, keeping it low. And then total humanitarian and compassionate and other, 10,069, 43. That's what it was projected. Like, how many H&C applications do we have right now? We have a massive number. And if they're only going to process in 2028, 4,300, or at least that was what the original plan was. And then we go here and we look, refugees and humanitarian compassionate are actually bundled together. So this previously, they had these as separate. So this was really like 68,350, 60,000, little over 60,000, little under 60,000. That was the total here. And this year they've reduced it 56, 54. So there's even fewer spots. So I don't know what's going to happen with the H&Cs, you guys. I have no clue. They're like, what do you do when you have 60,000 applications for H&Cs? One of the reasons they posted the processing times at 50%, or 50 years or whatever it was, because they wanted to scare people away from submitting H&Cs. But I'll tell you, I don't know. I've got 5 or 6 H&Cs that are halfway done, getting ready to be submitted. And I've had discussions with my, with my clients about what we do, what we don't do. And I'm still submitting. I'm still going to submit the H&Cs because they have to sort it out. They're not going to let people sit in the queue for 50 years. We know those broad sweeping powers are coming. The godlike powers are coming. But ultimately, I'm going to treat it as business as usual until I know anything different. So there we go. I appreciate you guys hanging out here. And I'm going to leave the minister there. She can keep me company. Ultimately, going forward, you guys, we don't have all of the answers, but the 33,000 is very intriguing. Okay, let's do a few more little shout outs. If you have questions, now's the time to post them. And this was really the question. Paula asked it earlier. I did not watch the live. Okay, Minister, we'll let you go here. Actually, no, Minister, we're going to bring you back. We're just going to stick you up here, Minister. You're going to float up here a little higher. Okay, she's there. Oh, let's bring her right in here. But yeah, we'll give her a good presence here because she doesn't otherwise appear anywhere or do any other live sessions. So she can join me and then she can say, hey, I did appear on Mark Holthe's live stream the day of the levels plan partial announcement. Okay. Crazily enough, we have a super chat here. Chaitanya, oh, my friend, you are so awesome. Mark is amazing and really does his best to help. Thank you, my friend. So, so kind of you to jump in. That dude is awesome. If you like no frills and you are in Regina, Chaitanya is there. Go check out the No Frills, one of the new No Frills that started up there. So proud of you, man. Good for you. Client to business owner to providing food for the country. Good for you, my friend. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, let's jump and let's see what we've got here for other comments. And this is really it's your opportunity. Okay, Spiderman says, catch the ride late night. And let's see what we have next here. We got a lot of comments here. Okay, anyone who's asking like specific questions about what I should do and what I shouldn't do, we're going to kind of bypass those and just talk about these levels plans. Okay, that's what we're going to focus on. Okay, we also have Indy says improve French language. I haven't even touched on that, but I will get to French in just a little bit, and I'll show you something really cool from the presentation that I did last week. Okay, let's see. Okay, so here we go. Ippy Canadian says, PR Inside Canada, when you get a chance to let us know if temporary residents like visitors would be any way to get a job and change their status. You, my friend, zero. Like I can't see any world where they would be facilitating the transitioning of a visitor to a worker when they already have so many they're just trying to get out. I think it's very, very unlikely. Let's see here. Couldn't get my PR anyways. It's still better for Indian young guys who are troubled with their family and are frustrated with this job and living standards in India. Ruled and troubled. Okay. All right. So we've got some politics there. I don't know Indian politics. And David says they still blame us. It's true. Yeah. So stressed. Hoot hoot. Thanks for doing this live stream. You're welcome. Okay. Let's James says, to your point, that is why the higher education sector is in such an unprecedented turmoil right now. In my opinion, international students were seen as a cash cow and it was aggravated by pandemic. Well, to some extent, I agree with you. I do. The post-secondary institutions will blame the provinces for underfunding them chronically. And so the reality is when it comes to any public service, their focus really isn't on the bottom line. Their focus is in getting more funding to do the programs that they want to run and less focus on considering basically where they can focus on programs that maybe are going to be really important for meeting labor needs and things like that. Like there's lots of programs sometimes that get cut and are getting cut right now for the simple reason that they're not sustainable within the economic model that the universities have to work through in the colleges. And I feel for them. At the end of the day, they're trying to do the best. So we'll see how it plays out. David says Miller took 90% of the heat. He sure did. Yeah, he sure did. Joe says, good to catch it this time. Yeah, it's getting a little bit later, but I haven't done this for so long. It's kind of fun to get on here. Me and the minister together, so happy together. Aren't we, minister? Yes, we are. Okay. It's true. David says students just got disillusioned. Well, absolutely. That's why they're not coming. Okay. All right. So now we got the predictors. Batman here. Sam Reddy says, as I predicted earlier, based on PM Carney's comment, they have included H-1B accelerated pathway in the budget. Whether it will open work permit category, direct PR pathway, we shall see. Yes. So this is another thing that I haven't covered, which is the H-1B, which leads me to another very, very fun part of everything that I've been doing before. In addition to our TR to PR pathway, we also had, let's see if I can find it here. Yes, the Canada H-1B holder work permit course. And once again, there were, I think, at least, 100 to 150 people that went through this program and this course. Why? Because these are race to files and people needed to understand what they needed to do to be ready on the very day that it was launched. And this one, you guys, was an absolute gong show. This one was a mess. So you saw within the levels plans, the information, what they were sharing, is that they still want to attract the best and brightest. So what is happening in the US? We know that the US, the regime that's in there now is actively doing everything they can to crush the H-1B program. $100,000 US per applicant. Well, it's not going to affect the big players who are employing people at a $300,000 annual salary. Well, they'll pay the 100 and spread it out over 3 years or whatever the permit is, right? But it's definitely going to affect the smaller places. And so I think Canada's hoping to try to capitalize on it. But where's the tech? Our STEM program is SEM. I'll get to that in a little bit too. Okay. Abhishek says, do you think they will close low wage and high wage LMIAs under temporary foreign worker program? I do not believe that they will close high wage, but the low wage, for all intents and purposes, is closed. There are very few places where employers can actually get LMIAs because of the, alleged unemployment rates, which I guess there's evidence to support it. Okay. Yep. And when it comes to the executives, Mian Omar Shah here is talking about people paying $70,000 to brokers for 200-point LMIAs. Well, hopefully the government is now starting to identify that and to deal with that kind of a world. That's why they dropped the points, so that people, wasting the money to get these fake job offers, and that's what killed it for everyone else. They said it was a temporary measure. I think they're going to roll it back out, but hopefully they get their acts together and enforce better. Let's see here. Startup visa target. Yeah, we'll get into all of those details. It's all I know. It's just a mess. Okay, not a bot says, shouldn't scrap temporary foreign worker, just only allow Western countries to be eligible. Okay, well, that's maybe, a little restrictive. Well, it's true that ultimately people from countries with lower wages are willing to do the job cheaper. I think that's not untrue, but the reality is there is a balance between that. There's a balance. Okay, seriously, French prio, please more focus on jobs that are needed, construction, healthcare. I agree. The whole French thing just drives me crazy. Incoming TR to PR, well, maybe, Joe. We'll see. Let's see. Paula says, with that 33,000, at least create my express entry profile. Yes. Make sure every single one of you has one in place, and you have your language test, you have your educational credential assessments, everything that you need. And yeah, that's what we're looking at, Abhishek, is who those people may be. Okay, they may invite 33,000 work permit holders on the basis of tax paid during their stay in Canada, ongoing job occupation, and number of years lived in Canada. I think all those are potential factors. I don't know if they would actually do a cutoff on if you paid this much tax, then you have an opportunity. But the reality is, when it comes to applying for other programs, right, you have to show that you've made a certain amount of money, right? Like super visas for parents when you're inviting them. Okay. Magalio says, hey, Mark, cheers from Toronto downtown. Nice green shirt. You are wearing green as hope. Well, that's the hope, right? That's the hope, that there is something available for people in the future. That's the hope. Okay. Yes. James says, super curious to understand, what do they mean by 33K? I believe it would be a bit more from provincial level, PNP base. I don't think it's going to be PNP. This is going to be a federal program. They may allocate, and that's another thing. They haven't indicated anything with respect to the breakdown of PNPs within this. So we still have to wait and see what they're going to do, because the economic immigration has no breakdown of how these are going to be distributed. Remember, this is what they typically have. They typically have a complete breakdown of each of the programs, where the numbers are going to be, how many are going to be provincial nominees, are they going to increase this, right? We've seen that they've probably bumped maybe up closer to this side, maybe, of the equation. This is the middle ground. This is the high ground. And remember, with these here, you can see the 239 is kind of the middle, but they could go as high as 264. So keep that in mind as well. Okay, other questions? We'll keep firing away here for a couple more. Let's see. And I understand everybody's frustration. I post comments from everyone, right? The worst immigration system. They again give PR to those who don't deserve it. I think there's a lot of people who really deserve PR that won't have an opportunity to do it. So I agree with a statement like that. Mian says, it's funny that there is unemployment in Canada and yet they are issuing LMIAs and say they need temporary foreign workers. Unemployment rates vary based on locations. So it could be unemployment rates of, like right now, I think there's 7% or almost 8% in Lethbridge, my community here. But if we were to go out to one of the rural communities, like maybe Pincher Creek or somewhere that's an hour away, they really struggle finding people to work. So the unemployment rates are by a specific region, centrist. What's it called? I'm trying to think of the term, the metropolitan regions. Anyways, those regions typically where people all tend to go to the cities. That's where unemployment rates tend to be a little bit higher. Okay, and yes, there's people I know. This person here, I missed the TR to PR by bad luck. It was very painful to get PR after that. I know. And lots of people, they just didn't have an opportunity because they didn't have their language tests ready. Yes, Sridhar, it is a live session now. Yes, it is. Okay. Let's see what we have here. Okay. Diller says, hey, Mark, I got my work visa, but it's low wage. What is the fastest way to bring my spouse and kids? It ain't going to happen. When you're in a low wage, I guess it depends on what tier you are, but the restrictions are very, very tight for spousal open work permits and bringing kids. If you go to our website here, you guys, and you go to blog and resources, we have a ton of really good blog posts and things for you guys to follow. Whenever we do videos, we tend to do blogs associated with them. Let's just see here if I can pull up what Igor, when it comes to spouses, okay, right here, this one, Igor went out of his way to talk about the spousal open work permit changes. And so I'd strongly encourage you to take a look at it, because if you're unsure and you're wondering, hey, I'm on a work permit here, can I get an open, we've got Minister Diab right in front of me here. I wonder how many times we've had Minister Diab in front of my face and I didn't realize it. Okay, we'll just get rid of her. All right, so, but you can see for spouses of international students, there's restrictions there, and spouses of foreign workers. If you're a tier 0 professional, a tier 0 managerial or professional work permits, then your spouse can get a spousal open work permit. If you're tier 2 or 3, then you have to fit in one of the eligible occupations. And so you can click on here and go through here, and Igor's got a lot of good resources right there. All right, let's keep zipping through a few more. Let's see. Mian says they need butchers. Wow. Okay. Okay. They said, how could they determine tax paid and other factors by the information submitted in the pool? They will have to ask for additional info to start the program. Well, definitely there's qualifications. They could easily ask for that as part of the intake. They could. Let's see. Yeah, I hear that. The system has aged you by 10 years. I totally understand that. And then this is another question. Decksheet also points out that we don't know what the levels, like what the categories are going to be. Are they going to get rid of education? Are they going to do more CEC? Are they going to keep doing French the way they are? We just don't know. Joe says minister has appeared. She's appeared live more times in my live stream than she has in public. That's true. She has. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. I'm just skipping through some. Yeah. So, and then Welder C Boss says, hey, Mark, do you think that 33 would go to priority categories like trades, health, and education? Possibly. There could be some carve outs for that. It's possible, but technically we already have categories within express entry. Let's see here. And yeah, I agree with Vam here. He says, I got ticked off by the new program announcement for H-1B workers while IT techies in Canada are struggling to find a job. So dumb. I agree. There's issues with that. Let's see what else here. Deck Sheet says, could this 33 be used for PNP non-express entry applicants or anyone on postgrad? Well, possibly it could. They can do it however they want. Haroon says, can we create a profile with only 6 months of experience? No, you need at least a year. Let's see here. Bill Nye says, could the 33 be to create a pathway for Ukrainians and Hong Kongers? Yeah, it's possible, right? Because they have no pathways. That's entirely possible. They could give more spots to the provinces and let the provinces do that. But at this stage, yeah, it's uncertain. Let's see here. Oh, that's an interesting question. .com says, what do you think about the country caps? Well, you've probably seen the reports that in trying to determine, what they're going to do with these new godlike powers that are coming through the bill that's working through the House, that they're talking about really targeting certain countries with high fraud. And in that, they identified India and Bangladesh, although they didn't give any details. And that was also something that came through just because of, I think it was a CBC report, right? And it wasn't anything that the government is announcing. They definitely didn't include it. Mr. Diab didn't include it in her statement. Let's see here. I'm just focusing you guys just on the levels plans. Let's see. Oh, okay. Sissy says, I got my PR thanks to watching strategies given by Mark and Alicia, but still watching what will happen next. It still looks messy. Big applause for you. That's so cool that you come back to listen. Okay, let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, and Abdul is right. Lost in all of these numbers and quotas is the impact on real people and real lives caught in the middle of all of this. What a mess. I agree. It sure is. Yeah, and Wheaton says, I think I have the most egregious case in Canada right now. Well, we'll see, my friend, because I think all of us have really, really tough situations we're dealing with. Some days, I swear, 30 to 40% of the people I have consults with are in tears by the end of the consults. It's so, so sad. Okay. Brian says, is 525 still a good CRS ranking? It depends. We've seen the CEC draws be in the 530s lately. Abhishek says, if they change the LMIA rules, what about people who have applied already? Well, the reality is, in most cases, they will grandfather people in, and so the rules will only apply to those going forward. But with their new godlike powers that are coming through, they may very well have the ability to cancel applications as well, right? Okay, Philip, he put a super here. He says, for FSW, does 12 months have to be continuous? Yes, for FSW, it has to be. Okay, keep zipping through here. Updates. The last update, they didn't make any changes for like 2 years. So I think they are probably going to make some updates to the categories, but it'll be a little bit before they do that. Let's see, 515 this year. Do you think the CRS will drop to that? What do you think about 33 TR to peer as per understanding, please? Yeah, so we talked a little bit about that, Vinit. And the reality is, it just depends. They are adding a few more spots for economic immigration. It all comes down to this French, what they're doing. Like French is really skewing things, and it's a huge priority for them. Let's see what else is here. Yeah, there's so many people posting very, very sad situations. And this is the question, Harsim. Is it possible that IRCC is planning to expedite the PR process for people who are in the pool with 3 years of experience? There are also 500 plus in the pool. This way they strike two targets. Well, that is very possible. It is. Because like I said, people have high human capital or making a lot of money, have taxes, all those kinds of things. So it's just really, really, it's really going to be interesting to see ultimately how that plays out. Let's see here. Okay, here's a good one. Syed says, any hope for PhD graduates from Canadian universities at the federal level? Well, I think there might be, but once again, it all depends on work experience, right? Hello to you, matey. Thanks for connecting in on Facebook. Let's see here. I think we're just about to the end. We see some PNP levels being restored. Yeah, across the province, many provinces have received a few more spots than they originally had. Could this be the 33K they are talking about? No, this is something new for next year, 2026 and 2027. Do I think that the people at the bottom of the barrel, Arshnur says, in this TR to PR pathway, do you think the people at the bottom of the barrel, 400 to 450, will have any chances? I'm just not sure. If you're going by CRS scores and you're drawing people out that have the highest CRS scores, I think there's way more people than 33,000 above the 450 cutoff. Okay, let's see here. Good to see you, Pro Fund Rider. Okay, here's a good question. So Dex Sheet also says in levels plans, they said they will attract 1,000 researchers. So they might not make a different category for researchers and just directly give them PR. Well, they could. One of the issues right now is that executives and professionals, really senior executives, don't have pathways to permanent residence. And neither do professors, visiting professors, academics. They also don't often have pathways because of their age. So I believe that things are going to change and that there are going to be those categories targeted potentially within the 33. Okay. All right, guys. I want to finish off just by showing you a couple fun things for those of you who've tuned in that come from the presentation that I did just last week. So I'm going to flip over here to my presentation. So this is the one that I gave to the lawyers. It's kind of a sneak peek here. It's called Express Entry from Policy to Port of Entry. And so I'm just going to jump through this. I don't need to do all of this. But here's the reality. You can see this is how the category-based draws have changed. In 2023, we had these categories. Then they revised them. So I took out the T here because STEM is basically gone. And agriculture is basically butchers. And then they added education occupations. And then they dropped, you can see transport occupations got dropped here. Okay. So if we jump to the next one here. Okay, so like I said, STEM has become SEM. Where did the tech go? Well, if they, we got removed Minister Diab here. If we remove the tech from here, all there is cybersecurity specialists. It's kind of hard for you to see there. But they've got insurance brokers on here, but they haven't done any draws anyways the past year. Same thing for agriculture. They didn't do any draws anyways, and the only person on the list is butchers, which is interesting. Butchers are the same as cooks, major group 6. But cooks are actually included in the trade draw. So it's kind of weird. Okay, points breakdown. We know that there's no more points for that. Booster strategies. This is something that I've talked a little bit about before, but I just want to share a little bit with you. So when you add 1 year foreign work experience, if you have to go home, in the case here of Johnny here, he had no foreign work experience, 1 year of work experience in Canada. If he was to go home, his points would jump from 489 to 527 if he was to gain 1 year foreign work experience. So always do that math. Okay, next here, you'll see if the person went home and worked for 3 years, it really isn't going to add much more than before. So it goes from 528 here, and then before 527 if you have 1 year foreign work experience. Okay, let's look at Sally here, who decides she's going to learn French. Do you see the difference in this? So Sally's a typical 35-year-old married. She's got 3 years of foreign work experience, 2 years of Canadian work experience. So she's really maximizing everything, right? But she's old. She's 35 years old. Isn't that interesting? Old. And so if you look at her, she's got a master's degree and her spouse has a master's. Like, these are really top candidates, but they're still sitting at 459 points because of age, all the age points that they've lost. So she's got like a 0 to maybe 10% chance, right? But then if you just have her go and study, and if she was to accumulate and learn French, NCLC 7, now depending on how long it takes, her age points would probably go up. Maybe she'd be 36 or 37 by the time. So maybe there's a drop of another 10 points, but she'd be right up 546 and basically be guaranteed an ITA. So that's how important French is. And then here we've got Gustavo, who chooses to obtain 6 months of relevant work experience to qualify for a category. So if you're here and you do have the ability to shift occupations to get into one of the category based, in this case, he basically was in Canada, master's in social work, but then he basically he didn't qualify for anything else. So he goes home. He didn't have the experience, social work experience. So he went back home and worked for 6 months as a social worker, which is on the healthcare list. His score didn't change, but he has about a 90% chance of getting an ITA because the scores for the category-based draws are just lower than the general draws. So those are just some little few tips that I wanted to share with you. And then I also want to just show you, we can zip through all of that because we've already looked at it. but this is what I want to show you for the rounds of invitations. Okay, yeah. Are you ready for the French language draws? Don't run away. Okay, so as of today, basically the beginning of October or the end of October when I did my presentation last week, this is kind of where things were at. Now, since that time, they did another 6,000. So this is basically 35,500 total Francophones, just Francophone draws. And what percentage of the total ITAs, this is a question for all of you, if you're still awake, if you're paying attention, if you're watching this is another listener question, okay? So the question I have for you is, if we add up, well, even if we took just the 29,500, how many or what percentage of the total ITAs then does the Francophone only draws comprise? So what I'm asking is, of all the invitations to apply that have been extended this year up until basically the end of October, there have been 29,500 invitations issued under Francophone only draws. So what is the total percentage of ITAs are Francophone? What are they? Okay, there we go. So Dream Canada says 50. Oh, Spider-Man says 41. Okay, let's see what we got here. Bingo. 41.1% of all ITAs. And it's actually more now because there were another 6,000 added onto here. Okay, so that's the world of French, you guys. And I know it's super frustrating for all of you. But that's the world that we're in right now. That is the world. Okay. All right. So now at this stage, I think we can probably, I don't think there's anything more I really want to share with you in here. I think we're just about ready to wrap this up. So any last minute questions, drop them in right now. You did remember this correctly. Chaitanya said 62%. Do you know what, Chaitanya, for you, if you factor in how French also has been a driver of CRS score for the CEC draws and even for the other categories, I know French still plays a role in those. And so the overall, I wouldn't doubt if it was that high, Chaitanya, that had some form of French language points contributing to them getting an ITA. It probably would be that high. Okay. Yeah, we got the other guesses. Thanks for your guesses, guys. Minister should retire or better yet resign. Well, the reality is she's just kind of chilling in the background, and I don't think we'll see much from her. She has a disappearing act. She appears and then she disappears. Okay, let's see here. Yep, that's right. Is IRCC planning to cancel visitor visas? I read a news article on CBC. Entirely possible. I think we all read that. It was Spider-Man. I did give you that in a previous live stream, but hey, you're being rewarded for paying attention. Okay, so this says, I missed it, but is Canada getting more Indian people with this new plan? No, it's neutral to where you're coming from. Okay. All right. So I think we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much, you guys, for all tuning in today for this late night surprise session. As we learn more about the levels, the annual levels plans, as we get more details, I'll be happy to share them as we learn more about this 33,000. If there's some kind of a race to file in a program, make sure you start getting all of your stuff now, your language test results, your educational credentials. Make sure you're in the express entry pool in case they do a crazy February 13th, 2021 draw where it was 27,332 ITAs issued with a low score of 75. That's what has happened in the past. That's not going to happen again, but it could be a variation of that. So make sure you have your application in the pool. Super, super critical. Okay. All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And yeah, I'm not covering the OINP, guys. This is all about the annual levels plans, not the PNPs. So that's why I'm not answering those questions. Okay. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much, Joe, for being here and everyone else. And yeah, we'll go from there.